the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Very nice and quiet, everyone. Welcome. Missed you guys. Missed our people. Very happy to see all of you and people watching with us on live stream. You're most welcome as well to send us questions if you want. You can text me your questions and we'll try to answer them at the end. And welcome, everyone. Good to see all of you. And as you know, the people that were here last week, we talked about the evil woman, the evil wife. And it was a very tough for ladies and for girls. And I promise you this week is going to be the other one, okay? The other side of the coin, which is what would a good wife look like. And this is the main theme of this chapter 26. So there's some other points as well, but we'll just sort of try to cover some of the main points. So, but I thought the best way is to read the whole chapter 26, so you can get a whole picture, and we can go back and sort of focus on some of the verses. Okay, so if someone can volunteer to read for us, or maybe a few people can read, because it's the whole chapter 26. You can read it from the screen there, it's on the screen, or you can read it from Coptic reader. Yeah. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. If people
Blessed
want to...
is the husband...
Thank you.
Okay. Blessed is the husband of a good wife, for the number of his years is doubled. A good wife delights her husband, and she will fill up the years of his life with peace. A good wife is a good portion. She will be given the portion of those who fear God, like a man who has done good deeds. But rich or poor, with a good heart, his countenance will be cheerful at all times. Of three things my heart has been afraid, and at a fourth my face has shown dread: an accusation made by a city, and the gathering of a mob, and a deceitful false accusation. All these are more grievous than death. A jealous wife is a grief and a mourning to the heart. In a jealous wife there is a scourge of the tongue, which communicates with everyone. Like a yoke of oxen being provoked, so also is a wicked wife. He who has hold of her is like one who has taken hold of a scorpion. An inebriated wife is a great wrath, and her disgrace and indecency will not be covered. The fornication of a wife will become known by the haughtiness of her eyes and by her eyelids, so that her daughter will not also turn away. Keep a strict watch, otherwise, having found an opportunity, she may enjoy herself. Be wary of the irreverence of her eyes, and you should not wonder if she might disregard you. Like a thirsty traveler, she will open her mouth to the fountain, and she will drink from every water nearby. And she will sit down beside every fence post, and she will open her quiver to every arrow, until she becomes weary. The grace of an attentive wife will delight her husband, and will fatten his bones. Her discipline is a gift from God. Such is an understanding and quiet wife, for there is no substitution for a well-instructed soul. A holy and contrite wife is grace upon grace, and no amount of money is equal to the value of a soul with self-restraint. Like the sun rising over the world in the high places of God, so is the beauty of a good wife is the adornment of her house. Like a lamp shining atop a holy lampstand, so is the beauty of a face in the mature stage of life. Like golden pillars upon the bases of silver, so are the firm feet of a mature wife upon the soles of her feet. Like everlasting foundations upon a solid rock, so are the commandments of God in the heart of a holy wife. By two things my heart is greatly saddened, and at a third anger overwhelms me. A man of war failing because of dire need, and an understanding man treated with contempt, and anyone who crosses over from justice to sin. God has prepared such a one for the spear. Two kinds of things have seemed difficult and dangerous to me. A merchant will not be easily freed from his negligence, and a shopkeeper will not be justified by the sins of his lips.
Glory be to God forever. Thank you for that, Christian. As you said, the people who were with us here last week, chapter 25, was mainly talking about what an evil woman or an evil wife looks like, and the consequences of that, and the trouble she brings to her husband and to her home. And we discussed it in detail, and we discussed some of the fathers. You know, some sort of was very, sometimes was rough talk against the evil wife. But you can see now, with a big thing now, chapter 26 is the other side, okay? Thank you, guys. Chapter 26 is talking about the other side now, the good wife, okay? or what would a good wife look like, and what would that look like for a household and for a husband. And we see, if you look at the few verses, it says, "Blessed is the husband of a good wife, for the number of his years is doubled. A good wife delights her husband, and she will fill up the years of his life with peace. A good wife is a good portion. She will be given the portion of those who fear God, like a man who has done good deeds." So when you read this, you can see the actual spirit of this, when the writer is writing this and is saying, the husband of a good wife is blessed, okay? And his years will double. He will have more years. He will have peace. He will have joy. And she's a good portion to have. And when you read this, you think, what's a big deal? Why do you think? Why? And this is last week, and this week talk about wives, okay, and women, okay. And we mentioned it last week briefly. But what do you think? It's a big fuss. Why is a big emphasis on the woman? Why? See, because people say it's men don't have much to play in the church. No, the big role in. So what do you think is a big emphasis on the woman? Why? There's the microphones all around, so when you answer, please answer microphone. So, Ella. You can bring the chairs here from the back as well. We can turn that one around. Just move my stuff. I'll move backwards so I can see. Yeah, you can put it in the sideways so I can see everyone. Thank you, guys. Yes, you can come here, sit in the front. So why is the big emphasis on women? Why is? Yeah.
In Proverbs, a wife or wisdom is likened to a wife. So I was just looking at this and I thought, well, what is a wife that actually gives a good life? It's a wife that lives by wisdom, or any partner that lives in wisdom, right? And I think when it's going through Sirach, it talks a lot about, it's similar to Proverbs, where there's a lot of talk about the beauty of wisdom, the fruitfulness of life. So I think in that sense, the focus on a partner that has wisdom in their hearts, the fear of God in their hearts, does all of these things. It's not, the years are doubled, but it's the quality of life is doubled, almost as if there's all this time.
Yes.
But I read it from not necessarily male or female, but from that sense, because it's a spiritual book. That's how I read it.
Definitely, it's beautiful. But as I said, that there was a lot of emphasis in the woman, and you find a lot of verses talking about a good wife or a good woman or a virtuous woman. And, I've got like a whole list here. Just all this list I'm scrolling through, all these are Bible verses of actually a good wife. Okay, all this, I'm sure if you put a good husband, you're not going to find that many. Okay, so there's a lot of focus on that. Like, for example, it says an excellent or a good wife is the crown of a husband. Is the crown of a husband. Okay, it's actually, when you read these verses, you say, look at this verse, Proverbs. Can we read them together, actually? Because they're very nice. They highlight the importance and how much God puts a lot of weight on the wife and the glory she can bring to the household, and the importance and the role she can play in the household. Look at Proverbs 12:4, the one I just read. Can someone read us Proverbs 12:4? I'm going to go through. Let's read a number of verses together so we can get the emphasis, how big the emphasis is, and the role of the woman. Proverbs 12, verse 4. Just call it out. Anyone? Proverbs 12:4. I'm going to give you many verses to read, okay? Anyone? An excellent wife is the crown of her husband. Excellent. Another verse, Proverbs 19:14. Quick, anyone? Proverbs 19:14. The microphone.
Houses and riches are an inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord.
Look at that. Houses and riches are inherited from the fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. Okay? So that means it's something so valuable, something so precious. It's a gift from God, something so precious. And comparing, say, houses and wealth, this is nothing. This is inherited for people. But a prudent wife is from the Lord, something so special. Okay? Let's look at Proverbs 31:10. Anyone can read that quickly.
Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rabbis.
Who can find a virtuous woman? She's precious more than rubies or jewels. See how much God has actually elevated the status of a good wife. He say, who can find a good wife? She's more precious than jewels. Okay? So these verses tell us how much God is actually focusing on the importance of the woman and the importance of the role of the wife in the household. And there's many other verses which we'll go about later when we talk about it more and more in depth. But this is just to tell us that the wife is so central in the household. And this is so clear in Proverbs 31. And we can read from Proverbs 31, say from verse 26, for example. Okay. Can someone read from Proverbs 31, from 26 up to 30 or 31?
Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised.
Thank you. Again, if you look at this one and analyze it, you see the importance of the role of the woman in the house. That she basically puts everything together. She glues everything together. Takes care of the household, of her children, of her husband. And again, why so much emphasis? You know, we put so much emphasis on this. And when I was preparing this, you know, I read many things and I heard many things, because I believe nowadays what's happening, you know, all this movement about equality of women, and women have to be like men, and the women's rights and all that. This is actually, it's actually sort of, what's the best way to describe? It's actually putting the woman down. Why does the woman want to be like the man? The woman is actually has much more better characteristics that the man is not elevated to that level, that God elevates women to that level. We don't hear about things like that, about the husband, that what we've just read about a woman. So when women are trying to push for the things, it's actually, they don't understand, they're actually sort of putting themselves down rather than putting themselves up, because God has already elevated women to a higher level. And that's why when God created Eve, he created Eve from where? From where? Created from where? From the side of man, yeah? Why did he create Eve from the foot of Adam? Yeah, any guesses? He could have took a toe, part of the foot, and a woman from that. Why didn't he do that? You don't think of that? No? Okay, and make it harder. Why did he take from his head, part of his head, and make Eve? Come on, guys. Anything.
Maybe so they'll be like side by side. I don't know. Let's complete guess.
So what do you mean? So why couldn't he take a part of his head and make Eve, or part of his foot and make Eve?
You can see from his response, Adam, when he said, rib, flesh of my rib of my rib.
Yeah.
It was if to say a part of me,
Well,
not above or below me.
A head will be part of him, a foot will be part of him as well.
It's the rib usually, I think maybe because a good point, the rib holds up the organs, the weaknesses. You're part of my weaknesses as well. I think that's where all the important things is. Nah.
Excellent. And Michael actually had the answer. He was guessing, but that was the answer. Side by side. Why? So man cannot say, she's from my foot, she's below me, she's lower than me. Or she can't come from his head, so she's higher than him. She's actually side by side, from his side. So they're side by side. That's equality. Okay? And throughout the Bible, this is emphasized. But what God has created is different roles for different people, and based on the best thing that will work, the best framework or the best design that will work. It's not in any way depriving women or elevating men. And this is verses, I want to emphasize these verses because when people sometimes look as if God is sort of putting women down or women is less than men, it's no way, no way. This is completely against the Bible, okay? Because it talks here a lot. And that's why last week is saying, don't be an evil woman. Don't do this, don't be an evil woman. And today is saying, this is what a good wife looks like. This is what a good woman looks like. And the characteristics of what a good wife looks like. We're going to go back, come back to Proverbs 31 especially, when we talk about this. But let's read in details. Let's cover some sort of bad aspects, because this chapter as well covered some things. Don't do that, or don't be, this type of woman. Let's finish them, get them out of the way, and then we go back to the positive part. So let's look, for example, at verses 8 and 9. What does it say? I just want to get the sort of the negatives out of the way first, because we have to look at the whole chapter. We can't be selective, so we have to look at the whole chapter. So what does verse 8 and 9 say? You want to read the mark?
A jealous wife is a grief and a mourning to the heart. In a jealous wife, there is a scourge of the tongue which communicates with everyone.
So what is that talking about? Very clear. Talking about what type of wife? A jealous wife. What's wrong with that? Why is the Bible condemning that? What's wrong? Yes, no one wants to talk tonight. Everyone's too scared.
What is she jealous of?
Exactly.
You don't see the mean, sure. Takes 15 minutes to get home, but you're right, 17 minutes. What are you doing?
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. All right. And then what does she do when she's jealous? Verse 9. With everyone, and her tongue is like what? Scourge. She's lashing at everyone. Okay. So let's start for a jealous wife or a jealous woman. Okay. I'm sure you've seen someone in that category or in that situation. Someone who's jealous, and usually you find, for example, a woman will be jealous of another woman, okay? What are the consequences of that? And this is, that's a beautiful thing about the Bible is it opens our eyes. So tell us, don't fall in these traps. Don't do this. Don't be one of these people. Why? Because the consequences are horrible. But be like this one. Be a virtuous woman. And this is what it should look like, okay? So I'm trying to finish off the negatives first before we come back to the positive. So a jealous wife. People say, okay, I'll get jealous. So what? It's my right. I'll get jealous. It's not a big deal. Let's dissect it. Is it a big deal to be jealous, to have a wife who's jealous? By the way, when we talk about this, I don't want just the men to sit back and relax and say it's got nothing to do with it. It's a wife's problem, woman's problem. I'm fine. No, men get jealous as well. I'm sure when a man sees his wife talking to someone or someone, they like talking to someone, they get jealous as well. And this will apply to them as well, and they will react in a jealous way. And the similar consequences can happen, okay? So it's not just, one-sided. But they're focusing here because usually it's more stronger from the woman's side, okay?
Sometimes it's attractive sometimes it's attractive when the other person is jealous, because it's kind of like it's protective. It's like it's nice that you're jealous that someone else is talking to me. Kind of feels good.
Very valid point. What do you think, guys? I've heard that actually. I've heard say, yes, I'm happy because he's jealous. When I was speaking to that boy, I can see him. He was looking at me all the time. So that's a good feeling.
To a very mild degree. Very mild.
So Yusuf saying that's true only to a very mild degree. How mild is mild?
I would say 2 out of 10 beyond that.
I'd say
Yeah.
I'd say when a 10 out of 10 that it's a good thing because God is a jealous God.
It's a good thing for
To an
to
extent.
make someone jealous.
Let me explain.
Okay.
Because God is a jealous God, but he fights and destroys that which takes away the partner or the church or who he's fighting for. And in verse 7, it talks, the whole part is about 4 things, so it's put together. Verse 7 is talking about a false accusation, but there's no false accusations in God. So his jealousy is based on truth. Whereas a wife's jealousy, if it's based on something false or covetousness maybe in the heart or a sin or something, that's destructive jealousy. So jealousy, both it can be good, but it can be bad only if there's truth in the heart. In the rest of the chapter talks about the commands of God that can breed life. Because if the jealousy based on desire to see someone living, the jealousy can be fruitful. But if it's a jealousy based on covetousness, it could destroy the person in front of you and cause mourning to the heart. I think so. It comes down to what is the cause of the jealousy that could be fruitful. Is it God-fearing jealousy, or is it God-hating jealousy? Is it destruction for the heart? I think. So to an extent, depends what it's ruled by.
But is the way God feeling when you talk about God is jealous, is it the same feeling as when I'm jealous or when the wife is jealous? Is it the same?
Definitely not, because no one can feel the same as God. That's right. To an extent. To an extent. Like when someone fights for who they love, like a father fighting for the spiritual child. You're jealous from the devil. You're like, no, they're mine, And in the same way, that kind of jealousy is good.
But when I'm jealous for something good, as you said, I'm trying to help or protect that person that I love. But is that what jealousy does?
It can do that, but it can usually it destroys. Usually it destroys.
Exactly, and we've seen it practically. Maybe I can see what Yusuf is coming from. Usually, maybe at the beginning stage when people are, dating at the beginning, it's nice feeling to have, yes, you get jealous when I go to other boys, and, it's a nice feeling. It's basically becomes a reassurance that person loves me, because, they don't like me to talk to anyone. It's a reassurance. But I can tell you, if it goes for that little bit, mild, just over a little bit, what happens? If it keeps going, what happens? Does it still have the nice feeling? Is it still nice? Of course not. And this becomes unfounded jealousy. And that's why the verse after it straight away says what? What does a jealous wife do? Yeah, like tongue is like goes crazy, like a scorpion, like lashes at everyone. What does it tell you? That's not something good. That's not something good. And many of the jealous situations arise out of what? What do you think someone becomes jealous? Self-seeking, excellent. So someone is focused on themselves, saying, no, you only talk to me, talk to anyone else, not allowed. What else? Someone usually jealous. What does it say about themselves? What's something inside? They're not content. Excellent. Insecure. Exactly. Someone who's confident will let the partner talk to anyone? No. Sorry? Unsafe. They feel unsafe? Could be. All right? But the person who's confident and they know that that person, their partner, loves them, they wouldn't care if there's 100 girls around them. It would even cross their mind to be jealous. Or my husband will look at them or even consider them. Okay?
It's not girls.
What do you mean?
So what if it's just friends? What if like say it's a wife and she's jealous of her husband spending more time with his friends?
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like wife jealous for my wife, a woman jealous for a woman. That's specifically that. Because it's talking about a good wife. Okay, so it's trying to say a good wife does not become jealous. A good wife does not fall into that trap, because that trap is deadly, guys. And when we've seen it practically. Like I know Um, I know personally a couple many years ago, and they loved each other, and everything was fine, and they got married, and everything was good. Okay, but because of jealousy, you know what happened? She was so jealous due to insecurity, and that's why I ask, what is the reason? Due to insecurity, due to other family backgrounds, due to thinking that her husband would be cheating on her, and all this was unfounded. I know the guy very well. He's perfect. Like, didn't think for a second, do anything wrong. He loved his wife, and there was no evidence at all that he could be doing anything wrong. But she had that inside her. She was a jealous type for no reason, unfounded. There's no evidence of it. So what did she do? Okay, to the extent she let her jealousy eat her up, to the extent that she used to send a private investigator after her husband to track him, to see where he goes. Can you imagine? Imagine that. This is what jealousy can make us reach, and that's what I'm saying. This is something so deadly. And these people and this woman used to send a private investigator after her husband. And he wasn't doing anything wrong. And everyone knew that. But because she was a jealous type and she had her own insecurities, she feels always he's doing something wrong. And she becomes jealous. I don't trust him. You know, why is he talking this? Why are you talking? You know, her husband, used to do a lot of help other people. She was jealous of that. To the extent that obviously because of jealousy, what happened? Divorce. They cannot be together. And this is the consequences of jealousy, okay? Obviously, horrible life. You can see that she wouldn't, bring him happiness in the marriage. She wouldn't bring him long days. She wasn't bring him peace in the family, in the household. Always fights, always arguments, always suspicion, always jealousy. And that created a very horrible atmosphere, similar to what we talked about last week in chapter 25. But that led to them being separated, divorced. Not just that, they had a long legal battle, okay? So took him to court, and she went all the way to the extent that he lost his job, and because he lost his job, he had no money. So to defend himself, his parents had to sell their home so they can finance his legal battle with his wife. And you think, why did all that happen? Obviously, psychological damage in the process, spiritual damage, everything. And you think, why all that? It started with jealousy. And that's why do not underestimate things like that. When you say there could be a good thing, no. We have to get rid of it because that's not something good, okay? It's like something that starts, it may look good, but will quickly turn into something that was really, really sour and will ruin the whole family. They'll ruin the whole family. And this is very important to realize as Christians, when it comes to things like that, people make fun of it or use it sort of to as something to attract someone else. But this is against what the Bible says, because a jealous wife will be the worst. And see how he described. What did verse 7 say? The one before talk about jealous wife. Can someone read it again for us? Or the couple of verses before. What did it say? The verses before the jealous wife one, just the verses before that one. I can't remember the number now.
Of three things my heart has been afraid, and at a fourth my face has shown dread. An accusation made by a city and the gathering of a mob, and a deceitful false accusation, all these are more grievous than death.
And then?
A jealous wife is a grief and a mourning to the heart.
Exactly. So he said three things are worse than death. But the fourth one is another level. What's the fourth one? A jealous wife. Can you see? So he put the jealous wife above all these other three things. And the way the writer does it, it's beautiful. He's trying to highlight, instead of saying it's the worst thing, he's saying these three things are worse than death, but there's a fourth one that's on a different level altogether. Again, the thing that we thought was actually good, it's nice, it may be good, he said, no, this is not good. This is the worst of the worst. And he put it down to something very, very bad as a jealous wife, as I just said in the example. Okay. Let's go back to verse 37, Proverbs 31, and look about some of the qualities of a virtuous wife. Okay? And we're going to look through some examples in the Bible, examples of good women or good wives, so we can learn from them. So let's read together Proverbs 31, which we already touched upon. Okay, so go from verse 20. Try from verse 20. Oh, sorry, before that, yep. Sorry, the one before, the screen before that, I think starts earlier. Yep, earlier, the one before there is one. Yep, it's from that one, from verse 10. So this is actually a very extensive list of a virtuous wife, and it goes through and explains, and this is the core of this whole topic, is the best way is Proverbs 31 of a virtuous wife. It goes through, describes in practical terms what does a virtuous wife look like. And then we can and pick some things from it. So if someone can read it for us, please. From verse 10. Yeah, keep going until I tell you to stop.
Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it from her profits. She plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow on her household, for her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes them garments and sells them, and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are for her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, for her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is passing. But a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her lands, and let her own work praise her in the gates.
Thank you. Glory be to God forever. Amen. So you can see the whole chapter, nearly the whole chapter, it's just dedicated to that. If you go back and let's analyze just from the things that we just read, just call out some characteristics of that virtuous wife or woman that we're talking about. Some things, just a couple of words, things that you picked from anything that you read to describe. If I tell you what does a virtuous wife look like, she does this, she does that, or she has this characteristic. Call out, anyone. Sorry? Thoughtful. In what way? What made you say that? Excellent, very thoughtful. Excellent, very good. Good. Not lazy, excellent. Idleness, she said, doesn't know idleness. Very, rises up early and does all that. Excellent, so not lazy. Very good. Come on, there's many things there. There's like 20 verses. Come on. This is the characteristics of a virtuous woman, a virtuous wife. This is in practice, guys, okay? So this will be a good, I don't want to say a checklist, but will be very nice for young men going to look for a wife. You take 31 with you and walk around, okay? Okay? Will be a good checklist. I'm serious, will be a good checklist, you know? Because it says everything that you need in a good wife, okay? Forget about what the media tells us, what the social media tells us, what people tell us. This is a beautiful checklist, and that's why I want you to analyze it, okay? And saying, for a man, this is what you're looking for, a woman with these characteristics, and for the woman, this is what you need to be a good wife. So it helps both ways. So for the woman, as a Christian, woman, I need to know, what should I look like practically to be a virtuous wife? The things I need to do. So if I don't have these characteristics, I work on them now. I pray that God may give you these characteristics, and I work for them. And the boy on the other side, when you're looking, you don't look, for example, look what the verse, 30, which one? Yeah, thank you. Look what verse 30 said. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing. Okay? So when you're looking, tell you, be careful. Don't look at beauty. Don't look at someone who's charming, because that's passing. So what do I look for, Lord? But a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. Okay? So that's one thing. Literally, guys, this is a beautiful checklist. And this is when you think you found the one, goes through Proverbs 31 and saying, can I say about this person? And when you are preparing for marriage as a girl, say, this is what God calls a virtuous wife. Do I have this? If not, I'll work towards them with the grace of God. So this is very important. That's why we need to analyze it in details. So tell me more. Characteristics of a virtuous wife. Come on, look at. So she's wise, okay? So she opens her mouth with wisdom. How many women open their mouth all the time? With wisdom? With what? Talking too much. Is that wisdom too much? Talking wisdom? Okay? So let's be practical, and let's look, compare it to what happens in practice now, especially in our generation, whether this is actually met or not, okay? She opens her mouth with wisdom. So that means when she opens her mouth, you want to listen. Yeah? It's something wisdom. Okay? I'm going to go back and forth on this point, on about wisdom, on about opening her mouth, because on the chapter that we just read, chapter 26, you don't have to go there, so I don't take it from you. There's a verse, which is verse 18. In verse 26, it says, a silent wife is a gift from the Lord. Okay? Compare that with chapter 25, verse 27. Can someone get it just to read it so we don't try to...
Defend yourself, please.
Yeah.
This is why women and females feel oppressed.
Okay, very good.
There are words like silence, and there's nothing in,
Excellent. Give her the microphone. Give her the microphone.
talk about a woman to work and provide her talents, not just in her home, but outside of her home. So I'm just saying, I agree with it. But
I don't agree with it. It actually says he
okay.
provides work outside the home as well. You didn't pick that up?
No, I didn't.
Okay, we'll go back to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, that's good. But when we're saying a silent wife is a gift from the Lord, and it compared with a talkative wife, which we read last week, why is that? It's because of that reason. It's because wisdom. What they're saying is, have wisdom. Why? Because there's a tendency to talk too much, and when you talk too much, there's no wisdom in it. So it's saying the virtuous wife opens her mouth with wisdom. It's not an attack against women. As we heard last week, because most of you were not here last week, as we heard last week, God is trying to because he loves the woman so much, he wants to elevate her to the highest level. So he's saying, please don't do this, please do that. Because as we said, God created woman to be the helper for men. And as we said today, to be side by side, not lower than him, not higher than him, but side by side. So there's always equality. So when you see verses like that, it's not talking about do this, it's because as a tendency for women, they have a tendency to talk more than boys. Does anyone disagree with that? Okay, that's a fact, okay? So we're not disputing that. So what he's saying is, a virtuous woman is different from everyone else. Why? Because she opens her mouth with wisdom. So when she opens her mouth, there's wisdom there, okay? So you have to be careful. And, can someone turn the aircon off? It's getting a bit warm. Just press that button here, thanks. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, so let's go back to Proverbs 31. What other things you picked from that one? She fears the Lord. Remember how many times we talked about the fear of the Lord and the importance of the fear of the Lord? And many chapters we talk about the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, etc., etc. So this is a very good quality you need to see in a woman. What does fearing the Lord would look like practically? Okay? As a woman, how do you know that you're fearing the Lord? I'm a God-fearing woman. How can you tell? And as a man, how can you tell a woman is God-fearing? This is very important, guys. This is very important for your selection process, okay? Listen carefully.
The actions that are done show fear of the Lord, because in the heart, if the heart fears the Lord, then the rest of the person will follow the body and the spirit. So those things which are vices, one could say, if they're not followed through, then there is the fear of the Lord. And if vices are easily run into, and at least if there's not grace, then there is, on the other side, a lack of.
Very good. Very good. Thanks, Paul.
She should be wise.
Exactly.
Wisdom is the fear of the Lord.
Exactly. That's the key. And when you have a God-fearing person, you'll know that even if they make a mistake, what's going to happen? They're going to come back to the senses quickly. If, for example, a couple, a husband and wife, and they have a problem. Every husband and wife will have problems. Even if they're Christian, if they're good Christian, they're bound to have some sort of problems. But the difference between someone who fears the Lord and someone who doesn't, if the husband upsets the wife will tell the husband, we need to go and sit with Abuna. A husband that's God-fearing would say, of course, let's go talk to Abuna. A husband that's not God-fearing would say, who's Abuna? What's Abuna got to do with it? What's he's got to do with anything? Abuna doesn't know that problem. He's got nothing to do with it. We'll just keep it to ourselves as if he's going to help us. And actually, I had this situation happen. There was a dispute, a family dispute, and the husband says, no, I don't get Abuna involved in this. It's got nothing to do with that. We'll solve it ourselves. And they kept fighting for a long time, and no one is helping them until they deteriorated. Why? Because Abuna's got nothing to do with that. Why? Because he doesn't believe in the role of the church. He doesn't believe that, it's something I can work it by myself. I don't need any advice from anyone. Okay? Someone who's God-fearing, even when they have a fight, they'll go and apologize. Someone who's not God-fearing will never apologize. I'm always right. Someone who's God-fearing, will always try to, grow in their love for their partner, through their love for God. So this is a core that branches to everything, because out of it, wisdom, and because of that, everything will branch. So this is like your safety net in marriage. So anyone that wants to get married, you need to choose someone who's God-fearing. Why? This is your safety net. If things go wrong in marriage, which that will happen, because we're all humans, then this is your safety net, safety valve. This is what you're going to fall back to. Someone God-fearing, someone will recognize what they've done wrong. The dispute wouldn't last long. There'll be apologies. They'll be feeling sorry, and things will go back to normal. Okay? But many marriages break down is because people say, we love each other. Yeah, but he's a good boy, but he doesn't come to church. What do you mean he's a good boy, doesn't come to church? So he's not God-fearing. So what do you think is going to happen if you have a dispute with that good boy that loves you? Practically, what's going to happen? That love is going to sort of, cool off with time. And where's your safety net? Where's that safety net? Where are you going to fall back to? And this is what we're talking about here. Okay? Give me more characteristics. There's a lot in that chapter that we read. How did he get that? Very good. Very good. Okay? So, see that? And there's more. She goes to and sells stuff. So she's actually a businesswoman. Okay? So she goes out and she saves and she collects and she thinks, she invests. She's an entrepreneur. Okay? She is. And this is what it's saying. This is written 1,000 years ago, guys, okay? If it was written in our language now, like she's a businesswoman. So now we say, we can't say the Bible saying, just sit in the home, just cook and clean and got nothing to do. No, that's not the intention at all. She actually thinks and she invests and she goes and buys, lands. That's investment. In our words now, it's investments, okay?
She gets her food from Costco.
What? She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. Okay? So that requires what? Requires someone who's being economical, someone who's actually thinks there's opportunities there, there's bargains there. I'm going to go far and get my food from there. Someone who thinks, someone who's with it, someone who, okay, there's a lot more. Keep going.
She works with her hands, so she's not afraid to do hard work.
Excellent, okay? She works with her hands. Very good. So she gets her hand dirty, okay? Even though she's a businesswoman, but in the home, she does work with her hand. Excellent, keep going. To the needy, okay? So she's not just thinking about her house, but she's actually have a compassionate heart that thinks about the needs of others, and she lends a hand to the needy. See the beautiful qualities, okay? See how beautiful these qualities are? And this is all a well-rounded person. Keep going.
She's trustworthy.
Where do you get that from? Verse 11. The heart of a husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. See, the husband safely trusts her. So is there jealousy there? Of course not. He trusts her. She's going to go and buy stuff and invest stuff and go from far, go far away and bring stuff from far. There's a trust, safely trusts her. See that? So she's trustworthy, that her husband safely trusts her. This is very important, because the other one we'll talk about is jealousy. Can you see that? Can you see how beautiful these virtues are? That's what we call it a virtuous wife. Okay, and we can talk about a whole sermon on each of these topics or points that you just mentioned, guys. Okay, keep going. Where? which verse?
17. She gives herself the strength and strengthens her arm.
That's a good one. I like that one. Okay. See, now we can put it in our nowadays sort of the language. She gives herself with strength and strengthen her arms. Okay. So she takes care of her health. You can look at that. Okay. Very good. So what does it give you? What impression does it give you? She's a strong woman. Okay. So a woman strong is not weak. Okay. We think of a woman as someone weak. No. He's saying she girds herself with strength and strengthen her arms. Okay?
She pays the bills.
She pays the bills. Where is that?
The next one, 18.
She perceives that her merchandise is good and her lamp does not go out by night. Excellent. Okay? So she actually, that's another verse where she actually sort of, her merchandise, what's her merchandise? She trades. Okay? Okay? So she's actually sort of gets money as well. Okay? And lamp does not go out by night. That means she's a hard worker. Excellent. What else?
I like 21. She's not afraid of snow for a household, for all her household clothes color. I think it means that in times of affliction, I know I could be wrong, but it really stuck with me. In times of affliction, scarlet's usually like blood. The household is ready for war, and so she's not afraid of snow when it's being poured down, because it maybe. Yeah.
That's a very deep interpretation of it. Look at it from the very surface. The very surface. What would it mean? Like what would it mean as well? That could be right. Okay. Who closed the household? She did. Remember, with her hands she does stuff. So she even has a household protected in times of coldness, in times of difficulty. She has her house covered. Wow, what a beautiful woman. Okay, she thinks of everything. If there's anything that takes her by surprise, she's not afraid of snow. Why? Because her household is covered, is closed. Okay, and that's why in verse 22, she makes that closing. Okay, what do you think verse 23 means? Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land.
He's a first row deacon.
Sorry?
Because the wife is so diligent in everything that she does, all the men can say that, so the husband is known.
But how do you think the husband sitting among the men at the gates, how do you think he would feel? Describe the feelings of the men. Yeah, empowered. What else? If you have a wife like that, men, how would you feel? Proud. Secure, exactly, very good. What else?
To touch on what you said about the woman being the crown,
Mm.
you'd feel like a king.
Exactly. And that's what he said. The good wife is the crown of a husband. Okay?
Especially if she's dressed in purple with fine linen.
Beautiful. That's very good. That's very good contemplation. Excellent. Exactly. And that's why they're using this fine linen and purple, because that's the majesty, or that's the loyalty. You know, someone from the royal family, that's why they used to wear, the royal family, this type of clothes. So, and one of the verses that we read earlier from Proverbs, a good wife is a crown of a husband. Okay? She adds that crown to him. So after all this, do you think the woman is disregarded? Nothing? No. Okay? This is what the woman does. The woman is the crown. Remember last week we talked about 25, about the evil woman? What did she cause husbands to feel? Grief, distress, was like a shame. That's what she brought to him. Okay? So we can see the big contrast. Okay, what else? Tell me more points. Wakes up early, not lazy. Excellent. Okay, so this is woman. So if you wake up late, you tell yourself, I need to work on that one. I need to wake up early. I need to not be lazy. Again, this is so practical. Please, I'm not joking when I say this is a checklist. This is a beautiful checklist for anyone who wants to be a virtuous wife, and for someone who's looking for a virtuous wife. Exactly, she wakes up for work, not saying I'm too lazy today. Thank you. What else? Intelligent. Okay, intelligent with her words. Okay, and we said wisdom, verse 26, she opens her mouth with wisdom. And her tongue is the law of kindness. Okay, so her tongue is what? Kind. Not the other one that was lashes, the jealous one. Just, remember verse chapter 25? Talk about like a scorpion or a snake or a lion. No, this one, kindness. Okay? Look at verse 27. She watches over the ways of her household. She watches over the ways of her household. What impression, what can you imagine that look like? Practically nowadays. She watches over the ways of her household. Yeah, but like in terms of practicalities, she watches over the ways of her household? What does it look like? Yeah. Yeah. She watches over the ways of her household. Shepherd, okay. So she watches her household. She watches over the ways of her household. That means she's making sure everything is in order. She knows what that child is doing, what that daughter is doing, what everyone's up to. She's in control of the household. She watches over the ways of her household. Can you see that? She's in control, and she watches over each family member, and she knows what each one's doing, and she's catering for their needs. Okay? If you just imagine that, a mother will take care of someone's studies, or take another child who's sick, or comfort another child going through a difficult time, and advises another child. Can you see? She's in control, and she's having everything. She watches over the ways of her household. Okay? 28. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. How beautiful is that? Her children rise up and call her blessed. Okay? Why is that? Because she watches over them. She clothes them, she takes care of them. Her tongue is kindness, she's wise, she's not lazy, she does all the stuff, she thinks, she's thoughtful, she's creative, she's a businesswoman, all these characteristics. She has a fear of God, okay? And that's why it says, verse 30, be careful, charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, okay? But which one will get that praise that we talk about, her husband and the kids praise her? The one who fears the Lord. The ones who fears the Lord, okay? So if we get Proverbs 31 and analyze it, you'll see what we're talking about here. What other thing did you pick up from these verses? that we haven't covered? Anyone? I think we covered most of them, but I'm sure when you look at it in detail, some people will pick up things that we haven't talked about. Beautiful. Beautiful, excellent. And that was one of the deep contemplation as well that Paul said about the blood and the scarlet, the blood. So what does it look like? Very good contemplation. So what would it look like of a wife now, of a mother now? What would it look like? That she makes sure all the household are dressed with scarlet. So what the Holy Spirit doing with that wife? What is she doing with the household? Excellent. She's actually making sure they're actually on the right spiritual track. They're taking care of the spirituality of the household. Okay? She's making sure, that's part of watching over her household. She's making sure that everything is in order, and that's why when she sees a child, she tries to get them to church, she prays for them, she gets them closer to God. If you look, guys, closely at the stories of the saints in our church, most of them were raised saints because of their good mothers. Many examples. They became saints. If you go back, you'll find their mother had a big, part in their life. That's why they became saints. Yeah, Saint Monica, praying for him for 20 or 25 years until he became a saint. Okay, so you see behind the saints, there's that mother. The church in Russia. They were communists, so they were Christians, and then the communists became a communist country, and they want to get rid of religion. You know what happened in Russia? It was Soviet Union back then, What happened is they want to get rid of Christianity. So it became a communist country. So what happened? No one's allowed to pray. So what happened? The churches went underground. So no one's allowed to have churches for many years, all right? So what happened is after the abolition of the communist country, and they became back again, the Russia and all this Christianity came back again. They said, how come they're still Christian? Because they tried to get rid of Christianity and they were not allowed to pray. You know what was the reason of their strength in their faith after all these years of persecution, and they wanted to get rid of all the Christians and all the Christian faith? No one's allowed to pray. They used to go and pray in secret because they're not allowed to pray. You know what the secret came of the strength of faith is because of the mothers. The mothers brought up the kids in the Christian faith, and they maintained and they taught them, even though it was illegal to talk about Christianity, but they taught them, and then when it was lifted, they came back strong again. It's because of the mother's role in the family that made them true Christians, and their faith was still there, was still strong. So we can't underestimate the power of women in every aspect that we just talked about. There's many, okay, it's after 9 o'clock, so I have to end it there because there's beautiful Bible stories of good women that we wanted to analyze as well and go through, and a few other verses to the end of the chapter, but we have to continue next time. Glory be to God forever. Any questions? Questions, anyone?
There's a checklist for a good man.
Well, good question. Maybe we'll come out later. Well, that's why it's harder, okay, for
men.
No, it's not harder. Before I forget, sorry guys, important announcement before I forget. Next week, we're not going to have a Bible study because I'm going away. I'm going to be interstate, so we're just missing 1 week. So please accept my apology. So next week is off, but we're going to resume from the week after. So only 1 week off, okay? So I want this number to come the week after, please, okay? Because we're going to continue on this same topic for the chapter 26, and God willing, we may start the new chapter as well. But there's beautiful stories in the Bible about women and what they did, and they changed the course of a nation, okay? Like big stuff. So whenever you think about the role of the woman, read the Bible. You know how great the role of the woman is. Okay, any questions, Sir David?
So, when we were discussing like the virtues of a good wife, we said that she's like in charge of the household and manages the household. But last week we spoke about verse 30 in chapter 25 that says, "The wife, if she has primacy, is set against her husband." So how can we reconcile these two verses together?
Very good question. Did anyone get that? Everyone get that? Because last week we talked about one of the verses said that the wife, if she takes the leadership role, then actually that's not good. That's not right. So how we can reconcile the two? What do you think, guys? From what we said today and from that verse? Good question. Is there a contradiction? Why? It looks like contradiction. Last week we said the wife should not be the primary leader,
Yeah, because
but nowadays we say she should be doing this, she should be taking care of the household.
But all of the virtues are built upon service and love and sacrifice. And I think primacy would mean taking the leadership position as in to destroy children, rather serving the household. Service is the leader. So if she's serving the household, it's like what Christ did. And I think all the Christian women with service are leading, not necessarily reducing the husband or any other people in the household's leadership, because leadership by service is communal rather than just one. I think that's why I think it's not a contradiction per se.
Okay, so talk about leadership here. So I think it's leadership. Okay, what do you think, everyone? I want to hear from the girls. Come on, girls. Tell me.
I don't think they want to talk to you.
No, I'm being nice today. Last week here, I know they hated me last week, but this week I'm nice. Okay. Okay. What do you think? Okay, so talk about equality and fairness and human and feminist movements. Why do you say the woman should be the leader of the house? Primacy. Okay. Okay, so
Is because when you get married and through the service of marriage and everything, the priest tells the husband that you are now the head of the house, essentially. So that if the female takes the main role, then it goes against what God meant through the sacrament of marriage.
okay, excellent. Okay, but why? Very good. Thanks. I want to hear from everyone.
I think you can keep the house in order without leading. So by the wife or the mother, looking after what each one in the house is doing. That's right, and serving her children, caring. Yeah, so basically, I think that you can keep things in order without leading. It's a partnership. I also think that you can lead from the back, which is a bit of a contradiction in a way, but there are ways that you can direct people, the direction of things in the household without being the head of the household. So it's just a different
Very good.
form of leadership.
Excellent. And when we talk about leadership, is it like in the sense of a competition? Like for example, like at work, when you have your boss, they're always saying, why is he the boss? Why can't I be the boss? It's not fair that he's the boss and I'm not the boss. He's the leader of the team. What's the importance of having that structure? Structure, okay? And that's what we talked about last week. We said that God has established marriage according to a particular structure that meets the needs of the man and the woman. Because God knows the needs of the man and the woman based on their gender, based on their needs. And God knows that, and He established the marriage based on a structure that takes care of that or meets this. And we talked about Ephesians chapter 5, from verse 22. And the summary of that is, man, love your wife, wife, respect your husband. The man needs respect, the wife needs love. That's a summary. That's a constitution of marriage. And based on that, then that's the best structure. Because what's happening, if the roles are reversed, then that becomes unhealthy marriage. Nowadays, we call it like the wife is wearing the pants in the relationship. People say, the wife is wearing the pants in the relationship. And people look, they're not comfortable with that. Yeah? When you see a dominant woman in a relationship and saying she's wearing the pants in the, that's not how it should be, okay? That's not how it should be. And that causes a lot of problems in the marriage. Why? Because God did not design it this way, okay? It's not saying that the woman is less than the husband. No, it's a structure, it's a design. They're not competing with each other, they're completing each other. And this is a big difference, okay? When we talk about leadership, it's not saying the leader is better than the one that being led. No, it's, as you said, they're leading in a different capacity, and they have different roles, and they're doing this completing each other, not competing each other. That's why we said the wife, a good wife, is the crown of a husband, okay? She puts that crown on his head, and it completes him, makes him a king, makes him someone who he is. And that's why it said, blessed, that started with, blessed is the husband of a good wife. So lucky is he who has a good wife. Why? It's because if it wasn't for that good wife, you wouldn't be blessed. You wouldn't be happy. You wouldn't have all this length of days. You wouldn't have that peace. Okay? So she's the wife is the leading all that benefits. So we need to understand, God, this is very important, because nowadays, and we said that last week as well, nowadays, the world is going upside down. The world is trying to push, as normal, things that are not normal, according to God's plan. The world is trying to turn everything upside down, and they use very nice words like equality, fairness, inclusive, tolerance, love, okay? But what's the end result? This is a hidden agenda that's trying to turn everything upside down. People's roles are changing. People even confused about who they are, whether they're even a man or a woman. What's happening here? When people are confused about this stuff, the roles are going to be confusing. The structure is going to be all over the place. The structure is actually going to break down. And this is what's happening. When this is reversed, the roles are reversed, or people are not sure about the roles and they're confused, and people taking different roles where they should be, the whole structure breaks down. Imagine in an army, and soldiers are not happy that the soldiers, they want to be whatever the next rank is. What do you think can happen in a war? It's going to be internal war. They're going to lose the battle. Because for an army to run, it has to run based on a certain structure, certain roles, certain hierarchy, okay? Everyone has a role to play. If someone questions that, if someone changes anything, the whole structure will collapse and they're going to lose the battle. And this is the same in marriage. The devil is trying to break marriages. Why? Because marriages is a sacrament. A church, a marriage, a house is a church. A Christian house is a church. So the devil wants to destroy the church by destroying marriages, destroying households. That's the easy way to destroy, all these beautiful things. So he plays around with people's roles and responsibilities under the banner of equality, fairness, all these beautiful words. But that's not the agenda. We have to be careful. Go back to the Bible, because God is our creator. He knows us best. He knows what works for us. He knows our needs. He knows what a woman needs, what a man needs, and the best structure. He said this is the best structure. If you're going to use something different, at your own risk. I gave you this phone to use as a phone. If you use it as a cup, mat or whatever they call it, you put the cup on, then at your own risk. I didn't design it to be used as I designed it to be as a phone. If you're going to use it for anything else, guess what happened? If you look at the warranty, void. Void. If you go, that's not the intended use. You use it for something else. At your own risk. That's not covered by warranty because I did not create it for that. That's what God is saying. I created marriage as a sacrament. You want to try something else? Man with man, woman with woman, different type of marriages, different structure, at your own risk. But that was not the original design, okay? And that based to the role of the husband and wife. And that's why when we talk about, Ephesians 5, and sometimes people laugh it off when we say at the marriage ceremony, wife submit to your husband, and people say, why do I need to submit? It's not fair. They look at submission and sound like you're a slave. It's not. It's based on love. Because you're going to submit, because when you see your husband willing to die for you, you're automatically going to submit because someone's willing to die for you. Of course you're going to submit to him if he's willing to die for you. See? That's when you put everything into place. Anyway, we're completely over time now, so I have to end it there. Thank you for the questions, and I would love to see you in 2 weeks' time. Glory be to God forever. Amen. Can you stand up for prayer, please? In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. We thank you, dear Lord, for the opportunity to gather around your word tonight. Your word is so deep and beautiful, but only if we spend the time in it, Lord. Help us to give your word more time so we can go into the depth and understand your will for us. All these treasures that's hidden in your word, God, that we ignore, that we neglect because that we're busy, or we think there's better things to do than to know what you have in plan for us. Lord, you created us. You know us inside out. You know everything about us more than we do about ourselves. You know our needs. You know our insecurities. You know our strength and our weaknesses. And you said it's not good for man to be alone, but you created Eve for him, to be side by side with him, to be his helper. And you created the sacrament of matrimony to support that structure, Lord. Help us to be strong in our faith and to trust in your structure, to trust in your design, that this is the best thing for us, Lord. Help us to submit to that. Help us to obey humbly and go follow your structure and not listen to the noise of the world around us that's trying to shake the structure by all these different fancy words they use. But we know the hidden agenda, Lord, to destroy your families and destroy your churches who are in each family that's built by you. We ask you, Lord, to give wisdom to all my brothers and sisters standing before you today and those who couldn't make it. Be with them. Help them in the decision making. Help them, Lord, become virtuous wives and virtuous husbands. Help them to choose carefully, to choose someone that's God-fearing. He will help them reach heaven with you. He will help them in their spiritual life to come closer to you. He will help them in their spiritual mission to come and create a family, a new church that's built in your name. We ask you, Lord, through the prayers and intercession of Samir and Samin and the saints of today. Hear us, Lord, the prayer thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and give us our trespasses, as we give those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, glory forever. Amen. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And now love God the Father, the grace of his only begotten Son, our Lord God and Savior Jesus Christ, the gift and the queen of the Holy Spirit with you, God in peace, and the peace will be with you all. Please, downstairs there's some food and drinks and lollies, so feel free to please go downstairs and have something. And very happy to see all of you. I would love to see you next time.